So good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the Shamans Circle webinar. I am your host for today, Constance Coral of Supply Chain Insights. In the next hour, you will hear from guest panelists sharing their insights on a supply chain leader group called the Shamans Circle. Today, we are joined by Marty Kisliuk, Global Supply Chain and Manufacturing Director of FMC, and Marty Smith, VP of Operations for Jockey. Our moderator today is Lora Cecere, founder and CEO of Supply Chain Insights, leading the discussion. Today's Twitter hashtag is SCI Webinar. We encourage you to share your thoughts and nuggets of information in the social networks, and we also want to hear from you throughout the presentation. So please message your questions in the Q&A section addressed to panelists. We will compile your questions and ask them as we move throughout today's webinar. At this time, I would like to welcome Lora Cecere.
Thank you so much, Constance, and thanks to the panelists, and thanks for the folks that have joined us. It's a beautiful November day here in Baltimore, and I want to talk to something that's near and dear to my heart, which is working with supply chain leaders to improve supply chain excellence. And as many of you have heard me talk, we're 30 years into the evolution of supply chain processes, but I think in many ways they're still evolving and we're still learning, and we have to learn together. And it's for that reason I started the company Supply Chain Insights. And both Karen from Jockey and Marty from FMC were able to participate in a Shamans Circle event that we had in this past period right before our global summit. And I want to talk today broadly about what is Shamans Circle as a concept, and then what is the Shamans Circle event. So both Karen and Marty will be sharing some of their insights later on after I give you the overview of the Shamans Circle. So let's start with just who is Supply Chain Insights anyway, and why are we doing this? It is our belief that supply chain leaders need independent, actionable, and objective advice, and that supply chain practices are evolving, and that we want our research to be used as the fabric for supply chain leaders to elevate the discussion of supply chain excellence to a higher level. The research is focused on the evolution of technologies, the evolution of organization, the evolution of metrics, and really mental models and new business opportunities. You know, who is Supply Chain Insights? We're a small bootstrap company of 8. I was started by myself in February 2011. I had previous experience with Gartner and AMR, and I decided that there was a niche in the market for research that was very focused against the supply chain leader. We publish a monthly newsletter to 7,000 supply chain professionals. We actually published our 17th newsletter yesterday. And we do monthly complimentary webinars. This is not one of them, this is extra, but the webinars are on topics around supply chain excellence, and then we do open research. We do qualitative and quantitative studies during the year. We also have podcasts. We do 50 podcasts every 6 months. And then we have an open community where people can share. Our research is in front of the firewall. And so as I talk about the research, you know, you're able to get to all the research in front of the firewall. We want people to use and share it. We have an annual event. It's called the Supply Chain Insights Global Summit. This year it'll be September 10th and 11th, and it's limited to 220 supply chain business leaders. And the concept is imagine the supply chain of the future. And then for networking, we have the Shaman Circle and the CIO Corner, which today I'm going to talk about the Shaman Circle. But this is really designed to encourage peer networking in an effective manner that allows us to connect supply chain leaders to supply chain leaders, using the research as a fabric for the discussions to hang, but a facilitated discussion that allows a small group to have a discussion that's comfortable, one that they know they're not going to be quoted, one that they know they're not going to be in direct contact with a competitor. And then we also do monthly infographics. It's our goal to be objective and socially engaging. And so what is the Shaman Circle? It's an exclusive invitation-only group. It's about 330 people right now. We do 2 private networking events a year, which people pay to come. It's a nominal cost to cover the cost of the hotel, food, etc. And the private networking events are designed to be small, so less than 20 people. We believe that very large events get to be too cumbersome, and they're designed around a theme. So the one in January, each person that's coming is to talk about their journey on demand-driven, the definition, their obstacles, their drivers, where they're at, and it's a sharing session. But it's a sharing session around a theme, and it's a sharing session that is research-based and it's facilitated. We divide the group into 2 so that we can eliminate any competitors in the room. The other thing is there are no technologists, so there's no software providers, there are no consultants, so it's an environment where line of business leaders can gather, and they're not going to have a fear that they're going to be sold to. We also try to set up the event to allow a lot of time for people to have one-on-ones, whether it's at breakfast or cocktails, etc. The other thing that we do is one-on-one networking as needed. So if you're interested in the Shaman Circle, contact us after this webinar, and we would be glad to include you. One of the things that we do is ad hoc networking. So if somebody wants to know who we think is doing S&OP best, or who's using a piece of software really well, or where a piece of software failed, or a process that didn't work, we will help network people on an ad hoc basis, and we do not charge for that. What we will ask for is that you fill out our surveys, you stay in contact with us, but we're really trying to be the glue that helps the supply chain community to get better. The other thing that we will do this year for the first time is we're bringing forward the supply chain index methodology. And the supply chain index methodology will actually rank companies based upon strength, resiliency, and balance. And we'll be asking 1 vote from each peer company in the Shaman Circle to give peer weighting for supply chain excellence. We don't believe that you can put all companies in a spreadsheet and shake them up, that you've really got to compare companies by peer group. So chemical companies against chemical, CPG companies against CPG, food and beverage against food and beverage, etc. And it looks at company performance over the last decade. So the Shaman Circle group is a virtual group. It has the ability to come together twice a year for a nominal fee. And it's a service that we provide to supply chain leaders for peer networking. And in exchange, what we would like people to do is to help us with our research program. Now, the research takes many different forms. So we've got books that we write. We recently wrote the book Bricks Matter, which published in December 2010, which is a 30-year view of the evolution of supply chain processes. And we have the book Metrics That Matter that we're working on right now, which is looking at the evolution of metrics across the industries and how different companies have done within the industries and how people have looked at metrics and aligned to do and improve supply chain potential. We're actively writing reports. Our reports are based upon active participation on quantitative surveys, and we publish in front of the firewall. We had 18 reports in 2012, and we have 23 reports in 2013. As of yesterday, it was 25. And we had 700 participants so far in the quantitative research. So it isn't just Shaman Circle folks. If anyone in your organization wants to participate in the quantitative research, we run banners on our website. We do solicitation through the newsletter. And we are trying to actively get participants in our quantitative research based upon their understanding of supply chain. And this is an example of what people are reading. They're very interested in things like big data and talent. We run a series of reports called Metrics That Matter. Abby Mayer does that work on each individual industry, and we run a database of 20 years of supply chain financial ratios to be able to look at the trends in the industries and what is happening. And then we also publish all of our presentations in front of the firewall. So that's what we do. So the Shaman Circle is really a network piece that we do. We make money through advisory work with clients, custom research projects, speaking and webinars, public and private training, and our annual events, and some financial benchmarking. So when I talk about what we want to do this year around company rankings by peer group, I think that we're still in the evolution of what defines supply chain excellence, and I think it's a journey for people. I don't think that there's what we call best practices. Instead, I think it is the evolution of understanding of how do we raise the potential of supply chain. So what we've been doing, and I've been working with Abby on this, is we're looking at the strengths of companies, so individual companies on year-over-year improvement and operating margin and inventory and revenue per employee, and looking at the intersection of these metrics over the last decade. The other thing we're doing, and we're working with Arizona State here, is looking at which portfolios of supply chain financial ratios maximize market capitalization, and which companies have done that the best by industry. And so we'll be actually showcasing that work in the March-April timeframe. And then we'll also be showing resiliency, so which companies have had the tightest pattern and predictable patterns at the intersection of operating margin and inventory turns. So imagine you'll have publicly rated companies, and you'll have a table, and you'll have our ratings on the performance in these areas. And then we'll ask for Shaman Circle members to give peer input. They don't have to, but we'll ask if they're interested that we have one person per company give us peer input on what they think drives supply chain excellence. It's this kind of research that we do, tying corporate performance to supply chain performance, that we think makes this a unique peer networking event. We're also publishing ebooks and revamping our community to support this. And, you know, as we work on this, I just wanted to kind of help people to understand why a research-based networking event. So with that, I'm going to ask Karen, are you there?
I am.
Karen, why don't you tell us about yourself and why you decided to participate in the Shamans Circle?
I am Karen Smith. I'm the Vice President of Operations for Jockey. Jockey is a leading underwear brand in the world, and we have a good market share in North America, and we're sold in over 140 countries worldwide and have a leading market share in those countries as well. And what we don't have is a really mature supply chain excellence model. We do parts that we think contribute to the overall improvement of our bottom line, but we really needed to get our arms around all the things that we should be doing to move towards a supply chain excellence model.
Okay. And Marty, are you on the phone? I see Marty is registered, but I don't think we've brought him in, Constance. Why don't you see if you can unmute him? And Karen, you know, there are a lot of networking events in the industry. You know, why this one? Why the research-based model?
I think this for us was very enticing because we are a privately held company. We don't share our information publicly. We really don't, by practice, participate in large industry networking events because we do believe that the things that we do in the nature of our private business gives us a competitive advantage. However, we know that we don't have the, is that Marty?
Yes, I'm in.
Hi, Marty.
Okay, great. Hi, Marty. Okay.
Sorry
we
to
know
interrupt.
that we don't have the market cornered on supply chain excellence, so we wanted to participate in a networking event that was more intimate, that we could share our challenges and hear the challenges that other companies within our industry are having, non-competitive companies, and brainstorm through how we could overcome some of these challenges and then bring some real solid ideas back to our senior leadership team and move it forward. It's the first event and opportunity that we've had to be open with our challenges and our ideas in a really proprietary way.
So Marty, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your thoughts are around this kind of networking event.
My name is Marty Kisliuk. I'm the Global Operations Director for FMC Agricultural Solutions. We're a $2 billion segment of FMC Corporation that's globally oriented in crop protection. I have participated in something like this many years ago, and until, Laura, you created the Shamans Circle, we haven't had anything like this. What I like about it is that there are peers who think and consider and deal with the same issues and challenges at the same level, unlike broad seminars where you have a variety of people. And while you can learn and understand, there's something special about talking to people at your level with the same perspective you have. So a small, intimate group of non-competitors is a great way to discuss, ask, and actually engage. And it's something you really can't get any other place. It's confidential, it's thought-provoking, and you really can look at each other and tell stories in a facilitated environment where you can actually act on what you learn, and you create a network.
So Marty, you know, there are lots of universities that have networking events. Why this one? What about it appeals to you?
Well, we collect in the Shaman Circle. There's a collection of real executives who are operating on day-to-day, not academic issues. I find that as good as we might think we are in some aspects, and as poor as we might think we are in others, there's nothing like sitting in front of one of your peers and being able to not talk about academics, not talk about theory, not talk about the practical challenges that we face every day. Somebody you look at, they know what you sense, they know what you feel, they know what works and what's not working. It's very different than academia, it's very different than seminars and reading a presentation, which tend to be interesting and send you in a direction, but don't give you the depth that you can get by a small group of people experiencing what you're experiencing.
So let's shift gears here. Karen, when you think about the one that you just attended, you know, can you share some of your takeaways or maybe some of your lessons learned that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise?
Sure. I think we probably all know the apparel industry lags in supply chain excellence, and what I did learn, though, is, as Marty mentioned, you have real conversations with your peers, and you have those Me Too moments where you, even though you think your peers, and in our case, a lot of our peers do have a more mature supply chain model, but they're facing the same challenges that we're facing, and really being able to come away with some ideas on how we might tackle those challenges was extremely valuable for me, and I know it was for my boss, who was also in Marty's Shaman Circle. So we compared notes and found out our sessions were completely different. The topics were focused, but they were different topics. And we were able to come back and compare notes, and we covered a lot of ground. It was very valuable, and we've now got our heads wrapped around how we move forward, which was the reason why we attended.
So Marty, how about yourself? You know, what'd you walk away with?
Well, there were two things. One was we actually have a strategy. We began employing a business strategy more than 10 years ago and have really become good at. And we actually found somebody on a panel who could actually benefit from our experience. And so I was able to share some things that we did really, really well. At the same time, we struggle in analytics. And getting good analytical on how to organize around the appropriate analytics. And I found some insights there as to how companies, the several people that were with us, about how they've approached analytics all the way from a very sophisticated in-house team of brilliant people for which we don't have that kind of focused group, to a group that's similar to us, that's managed to solve this problem. So I actually found two arenas, one I could help in and one I needed a lot of help in.
So, we've got this upcoming session in January. It's the third week in January, and the focus is on demand-driven. And the concept is that everybody will bring a story of their definition of demand-driven, their challenges, their opportunities, and we'll work on it from there and facilitate it based upon where the group is. So, like Karen was saying, the morning session we had before our Global Summit was very different than the afternoon session. And, Marty, a lot of that format, you've really driven at a leadership level in terms of wanting facilitation, wanting it to be kind of the voice of the group. Can you tell a little bit about your experiences in the past and why that's important to you?
Yeah, my experience in the past, and Laura, you were with me much of that, was a great group of small group of people that could really talk about issues, same leaders. And what happened was that it grew, and it grew so big and diverse that facilitating, that actually getting to a conversation and something deeper than just a presentation was difficult. We had gone to a place where each person brought a story with them, in-depth story, and we learned from it, and we rotated. And it got unwieldy. It needed to be facilitated. It needed to be a small group, and it needed to be peers. It couldn't be a diverse group. So I had an experience where it was a wonderful start and deteriorated. And it was like getting a taste of a great food, and then somebody takes it away from you, and you never get it again. And now I found it again in the Shaman Circle.
Well, thanks. And, and why do you think it deteriorated? Did it just get too big? Was it not facilitated? What was the essence?
Well, it wasn't facilitated like it was at the beginning. It did get big, and even competitors got in it. When it got big, you began presenting. You didn't engage. There wasn't time to engage when there's 15 people in the same room. And it just, you couldn't solve problems. And then people began to have a diverse group. It began with a diverse group of people. Somebody would send a substitute. They would bring in their staff and contribute. And we weren't solving the same problems. We weren't at the level considering the same subjects, and it deteriorated into a session that we were talking past each other. And so it did need to be managed, and it did need to be small. It did need to be peers. And you can't have competition in that room if you're really going to talk.
So Karen, as you think about, the next session and planning for the next session, what would be your recommendation for people listening that might be considering this kind of event?
Think about what your real challenges are and bring them with you. Talk about your challenges, talk about your successes, and then listen. Listen to the peer group and learn from their experiences as well. Something Marty said earlier hit home with me. In our session, walking into our session, I felt, being part of the apparel industry and lagging, I didn't feel like I had much to contribute. And what I found was, because we have a very mature international model, the things that we've done in our international model are things that companies that have a mature domestic model hadn't necessarily thought of. So I was able to bring something, contribute, and help my peers, which really gave me a sense of we're doing the right things, we're moving forward, and we can. I built a good, strong network of peers during that session, and as well as throughout the summit, people that I feel like I can call if I have a question or I would like to share an idea or bounce something off of. So come with an open mind, come with some real challenges that you need to work through or discuss, and you'll be just amazed at what you get out of it.
Marty, any recommendations to the group from your perspective?
I feel the same as Karen does. Bring a real, well-articulated story. It can be something you're great at, and it can be something you're struggling with. But bring a well-articulated story. You'll be surprised what responses you'll get and how much help you'll get, and how much you can help somebody else. but really think about it and bring it at a depth and open up. And when you open up, you'd be surprised how much you can learn from others.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And for people that are interested in the Shaman Circle, please send us your information and we'll contact you one-on-one about this upcoming event in January 3rd week in Amelia Island. And then the second Shaman Circle face-to-face networking event will be the day before our conference. It'll be September 9th for the Shaman Circle networking event and September 10th and 11th for the Global Summit itself. And with that, Constance, I just wanted to see if there's any questions.
Great. Thank you, Laura. And at this time, we'll open up the forum for any questions out there. In the meantime, Laura is showing a slide for Save the Date, our Supply Chain Insights Global Summit 2014, which again is September 10th and 11th in 2014 at the Phoenician. And you can find out more information on that event at supplychaininsightsglobalsummit.com. If you would like more information on the Shaman Circle, Regina Denman can help you out. You can contact us at questions@supplychaininsights.com. And Laura, I'm not seeing any questions at this time. We're just getting some thanks for the information. And I just wanted to let everyone know that January 23rd, 2014 is our digital manufacturing and 3D printing webinar. It's one you don't want to miss. It's a pretty hot topic, and it will also be a summary of our research report. That survey is open right now. If you go to supplychaininsights.com and go to our research section, please help us out and take the survey, and your results will be compiled and being a part of our research report, and that webinar, again, will be January 23rd. At this time, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you to Karen Smith and Marty Kisliuk for joining us, and we'll see you next time on our webinar series. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.